Good morning, Saskatoon. Well, there's a lot of things happening today. It's a Friday, so in case anybody's keeping track, it's 7 weeks since the city solicitor still hasn't been putting up proof about Prairieland Park and the zoning. And I guess she doesn't plan to do it. She just plans for everybody to accept that she knows everything about planning and Prairieland Park is legal and we should all go away. I don't really plan to do that. I hope you don't either. But the issue that brings me here right now is actually way more serious than that. It's a life and death issue in the chemical buffer up in the north end of the city. This is Emergency Preparedness Week, and the city started putting out a bunch of things about shelter in place. And what the interesting part is that they've ignored the actual shelter in place area within the city themselves. And they created it. I didn't. So it's one of those things where you find yourself knowing things that scare you and realize that the people that are supposed to be taking charge of this and making people safe are not doing their job. And that's exactly what's happening. So I've been hammering at this now for close to 5 years. And the city will try every which way to say that I don't know what I'm talking about or that things are different somehow. So yesterday there was a very interesting exchange. At some point, somebody from the city who is not really identified made this claim. They said, Kerry Tarasov continues to make serious safety allegations against the City of Saskatoon regarding the chemical buffer zone in the city. His facts are wrong and inaccurate. Which is it, wrong or inaccurate? This issue has been considered by council and dealt with extensively by administration. Okay, so they're owning that they are safe and everything is good. So let's ask yourself, are they? I posted some videos from 2019 that shows General Manager for the city, Lynn LaCroix, making a statement that everybody in the chemical buffer is required to have a shelter-in-place plan, and that buildings have special provisions for air shut-off that makes them extra safe and all of that. Whoa, I felt really good. Then Leslie Anderson, the head of planning, gets and talks a few different times, but one specific, she says that fire services are informing every person in the chemical buffer when they do their fire inspections that they require shelter in place. Yet every business I have talked to since then has never even had this happen. In fact, just recently there's been inspections and nobody's got a word told to them. So they're completely oblivious that they even have to have the provision to save their life in an unlikely chemical release. But it's serious enough that the city put it on a map. In fact, this is the map they started it with. This is how big the buffer is now, and there's the Chief Mistawasis Bridge, which goes right through it. So this is the shelter-in-place plan that's supposed to be enacted in that area. So it's over and above the general safety of the city. Frank Long, who's the manager of the land branch, even went further and said that, well, when they were selling the land to people, they didn't really identify to them that they were buying into a shelter-in-place area and they needed provisions, but that the zoning bylaw and planning would indicate that they needed shelter-in-place. Except that the zoning bylaw doesn't mention shelter in place once. Do a word search yourself and find that out. So let's put all this together. Even if they're telling the truth, even if the people that presented in 2019 are telling the absolute truth, which we should hopefully assume from city managers, right? That would mean that everything inside of this buffer requires a shelter in place notification immediately. They need to have preparations made in their buildings. Okay, and Frank Long again also said that he did inform people that purchased land up there that they are not allowed public assembly because we don't want a bunch of people running around in that area that puts extra risk. So when the city had the general opening of that bridge, the chemical plants were still operating, and I verified that with the plants themselves during a CAP meeting. So those two buffers at that time were active, which means a lethal threat to public safety existed. They had a huge public event on that bridge. They never once notified people on that bridge that they were at great risk and that they had no preparations for them. But what's interesting since then is the Meewasin Trail comes up the river valley here and it ties into the Wanuskewin Trail, and there's a path that goes underneath the Chief Mistawasis Bridge, which they located in the wrong location because it's now going through a chemical buffer. Basics of safety were ignored. So now the Meewasin Trail goes right through. So if you're in a school and you're taking your class at the end of the year all the way to Wanuskewin and you're going to walk up the Meewasin Trail, sounds really cool, sounds got to be safe. The city knows it's there, except there's no signs to tell you, by the way, you're entering a chemical buffer and you need to be prepared. So I've written to the school boards yesterday, and the letters will be up on my site right now. So if the city wants to engage me and call me a liar, well, I'm a military veteran. The one thing, I was trained as a technologist about 30 years ago. I've have a degree, and I've done that in land development and assessing risks for sites for 35 years. I have a piece of paper from the military that says I'm trained in this. But you know what actually makes me the most qualified for all of this is that I'm a farm kid. And when you walk by a huge steaming pile of manure, you know what you're walking by and you understand it. And nobody will tell you that that's a pile of warm, hot chocolate right out of the oven, except the city solicitor and the city manager, Jeff Jorgensen. This is their plan, is to keep people confused as to what's really going on here. And it's basic. You need safety. Their own people keep talking about it, but they're not providing it. And I think that fire services should be answering my questions directly instead of trying to circumvent through the city solicitor to not give an answer to basic requests. It's Friday. Let's hope that we have a better day today. And let's hope the last day of this emergency preparedness week that the city actually starts getting prepared for this real emergency that they've had on the books for more than 15, close to 20 years, and they haven't dealt with properly. My name is Kerry Tarasoff. You want to take a swing, city? Have at it. I'm ready for you. You have a great day.